Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Real Reds Talk, an authentic football fan channel made in Manchester. And Merry Christmas, everyone, to all the Reds and Man United fans only. Nobody else who supports any clubs in the Premier League. No, I'm joking. Merry Christmas to everyone who is watching, whether you are a Man United fan or you support someone else. We've got the decorations up. Now, it's not much of decorations. I'm going to kind of... I'm a little bit late on it because it is technically Christmas Eve. So I'm kind of like, quite literally doing it almost on the day. But, it's a nice little start-up. We're going to add a couple of little things. Because, for some reason, I always go live, and I just have it's not a green screen. A lot of people think it is. It's literally what the colour of the wall is. And I'm like, I want to put something on the wall, but I've been umming and ahhing about it for ages. So I just thought, for now, we can spice up a little bit, a bit of a Christmas theme, you know what I'm talking about? Put some baubles on there, what do they actually call them? Is that like a wraith? A holy wraith or something, is it called? I don't know. Anyway, people, sorry, I'm waffling on. The topics today, we've got quite a few chunky, interesting news stories, okay? So, Osimhen, new target, news resurfacing from a journalist that United have reignited their interest in Victor Osimhen. Marcus Rashford to leave in January, which is a potential. Old Trafford has had a mice infestation. Would you believe it? I didn't have that on my bingo card. Did any of you guys? And also, I want to give Ugarte some of his flowers because I think he deserves it. Now, I appreciate some people will be doing Christmassy things. They'll be seeing family. They'll be having a drink with friends and doing a load of stuff. Not me tonight. Not me. I'm here with you lot. Whoever it is who's tuning in or turning up. To get that news out there, because I think it's important to discuss some of these things. Victor Osimhen is an interesting one. So this is coming out from Sasha Tavaleri. I think it's how you pronounce his name. I probably butchered that. 120k followers on Twitter. I think he's from Belgium. It's, in terms of his legitimacy and his concrete journalism, it's a bit iffy. It's a bit, I'm not too sure. But Man United apparently are in talks with Victor Osimhen's agent. Personal terms will not be a problem. Marcus Rashford's departure in January can open the possibility of the deal. Napoli are looking for a fee as high as 75 million euros, according to Sasha Tavaleri. And PSG have also shown interest in the Nigerian ahead of the January transfer window. So, a few moving parts on this, and also a couple of things that could make this deal really, really difficult. I mean, it's already... I don't want to kill the hope of anyone who likes Victor Osimhen as a player, but this is extremely difficult, and because of the things involved, Napoli being one of them, are just hard to kind of barter with. I'm not sure the situation with Osimhen's release clause. Let me just double check the details on that, because extended his Napoli contract until June 2027 before leaving the club on a temporary transfer, and his release clause was lowered to 75 million euro. Right, that's fine then. So that's a release clause. That's okay. So they can't force our hand too much in that respect, can they? Which is good. And what have we been crying out for? If you watch Rasmus Højlund and you watch Joshua Zirkzee this season, in their own way, that both of them are not ready to be that first team striker. I'm sure in their heads they want to do that. I'm sure in their heads they're competing against each other and they both think they can offer things differently. But look at the evidence, especially in the Premier League so far. They are not someone you can rely on as a striker. They're just not. And, they are young. They can develop and they might get better. But you can't have a team where we're just relying on him to get better. Do you know what I mean? Because you're losing points per game. You're losing goals per game. You're losing influence in the game. When other teams, Bayern Munich have Harry Kane, City have Erling Haaland, Liverpool have Mohamed Salah, Barca have Lewandowski. Madrid have Vinny and Mbappe. These guys they can constantly rely on. We do not have that, really. And striker's such an important position. You go back to the old years, like the amount of top talented players that we had. Solskjaer, Dwight York, Andy Cole, Teddy Sheringham as a pool. You had Tevez, Rooney, Ronaldo, Van Persie. Even obviously Welbeck was not the top player, but he was still a relatively decent player. Berbatov. We've always had top strikers, and right now it doesn't feel like we really have one, does it? It doesn't feel like there's anyone to rely on, any key players. You could say he is definitely going to score 20 goals a season. Now, I have to admit, I haven't watched much of Victor Osimhen in Turkey. I don't know. I've seen bits of him at Galatasaray, but this is highlight clips, so his overall game I haven't seen. But one thing I can say, I definitely watched him at Napoli. Him and Kvaratskhelia in that when they won the league. Dangerous. I mean, some of the goals. There's a goal in particular I would employ you to go and watch, which none of our strikers do at the moment. And it's a cross put in from the left-hand side from a right foot. I think it might have been Kvaratskhelia, actually. And it goes to the back post, and Osimhen kind of just shrugs this guy off with ease, this defender, takes it on his chest, goes down and volleys it in the top corner. Now, Rasmus is probably capable of doing something like that. I'm sure, obviously, the Aston Villa game, you've seen bits of that. But Osimhen's doing this on a consistent basis. He ragdolls centre-backs. Whereas Højlund, when you've watched him against the more physical ones, against the Konates, against the Van Dijks, against these kind of players, struggle. Really, really struggles at times. And it might just be a case of putting on a bit of mass, getting a bit more wise, a bit more experience, playing against them more. That's fine, but we haven't got the time to do it in-game. It's basically doing what we're doing now with Ruben Amorim, where we're using training sessions in games and we're losing points. You know, we lost to Bournemouth, we lost to Spurs recently, we drew to Ipswich. Plenty of games that we dropped points in, and that's because we're effectively trial and testing, you know. So if they're looking to bring in, which my gut instinct instantly straight off the bat just says they will not do this. 100% they won't do it. Maybe in the summer, potentially, but I don't know the release clause if it's just active in January or you could still get it. I don't know. I know Chelsea was certainly interested in it, and that deal was very, very close to being done. So it'd be interesting to see if they go back in. You know, Jackson's doing relatively well now. Obviously, they've got Nkunku there as well, who predominantly plays in the Europa League conference games. So, do they still want him? Are they still going to push for him? Arsenal clearly need a striker. I know Havertz scored the other day, and they won 4-1, 5-1, whatever it was. But they obviously need an out-and-out striker. And I think someone of the level of Victor Osimhen can take them to that next level to go and win the title. It's as simple as that for me. I think a world-class striker, and he is world-class. He is world-class. He's, you look at the ones who are available around the world at the moment. Victor Gyökeres is the obvious one, works under Amorim at Sporting Lisbon. There's a gentleman's agreement apparently for him where we're talking 60, 70 million pound. Similar price range to Victor Osimhen. If that's 75 million euros, it is a similar price, 60 to 70 million. And think about it. That's how much we paid for Rasmus. We paid 70 million pound for Rasmus Højlund. So if you can get Victor Osimhen or Gyökeres for 70 million pounds, you would go and do that deal, wouldn't you? For sure, 1,000,000%. So I hope we go and do it. I hope this is the type of quality and world-class echelon we're looking at to bring into the forward line, because I can't go forward the next season or two just waiting for Rasmus to finally click into gear and become consistent, or by some magical miracle Xerxes turns around and starts scoring 20 to 30 goals a season. I would go as far to say I don't see Xerxes ever doing that for United, ever. I can see him being a secondary striker and you bring him just to offer something different, but he's never going to be your main striker at the club. No chance. Cannot see it. I'm happy to be clipped and proved wrong on that. But I don't know. James in the chat, Lumen in the chat, let us know what else, what are all your Christmas plans, what you're doing for New Year. How do you feel about these stories? If you are just joining, these are the stories we're going through. We spoke about Victor Osimhen. I'm going to speak about Marcus Rashford next. There is a mice infestation at Old Trafford, which is madness. And I want to speak about Ugarte as well, because I don't think he gets enough credit. But let's move on to this Marcus Rashford story, because Ruben Amorim, I mean, the guy does more interviews than Piers Morgan at this point. He's everywhere. Every day there seems to be a new interview dropping from Sky with Ruben Amorim or BBC or a press conference, and he must I know he's tired of it because he's mentioned it before, but he's being asked about Marcus Rashford. And I'm not choking up. I'm not getting sad about it. Of course, it's a hard situation, but I understand these kind of players. They have a lot of people around them making some choices that are not sometimes the first idea of the player. I understand I can separate things. I'm always here for helping Marcus. as another player. They have to do what they have to do. I say they just choose to do that interview. It's not just Marcus, and I understand that. So a brief hint there of the people around him. And if you listen to very credible journalists, people I would, if in terms of people I trust and sources, Andy Mitten, them type of guys are the ones that are right up there. Proper journalists who do the due diligence, and they speak to people around the club. And I'm not saying he's directly said this quote. This hasn't come out from his mouth. But from people in that kind of area and stratosphere, when they talk about Marcus as a human, and not like they say he's a bad human, but sometimes it's a little bit difficult to interact with. The people around him might be sending him the same message and influencing him in the wrong way. And that's been a concern for a long while. We heard similar things under Ten Hag. I know we definitely heard similar things under Ole. Mourinho, still the reference to this day when he's on about there are players at Man United that are there should not be there anymore. And he is speaking about players like Anthony Martial and Marcus Rashford when he did that quote. So I think Ruben Amorim's absolutely spot on. I think he's handled his situation perfectly. But if you want to balance it out, I think Ten Hag handled the Sancho situation relatively well. I think he did well with Cristiano Ronaldo. I think he did well with the Maguire captaincy situation. The De Gea story was a little bit... I didn't think that was handled great, but I feel like Amorim's doing well with this. Does anyone feel any different? We also had James Ducker from the Telegraph saying that Marcus Rashford wants to leave Manchester United, which is a pretty strong comment. I mean, it's not like it's brand new news. Everyone knows at this point that he wants to leave. But yeah, I just think I don't know. It's a weird one with Marcus. Nick, weren't Napoli asking for 120 million euros last summer, or maybe even the previous? Also, would love to know where Marcus is up to if said journalists are so adamant. Yeah, they can all make these stories. Let me just open the window because it's a radiator. Honestly, I'm fucking sweating. Sorry, it's 1 second. God, man. Saudi Arabia in here. Turn this off. Honestly, the heat in here, the radiator, feels like I've got Satan himself next to me, mate. Way too warm. There we go, a bit of a breeze. I appreciate it's cold out there, and I appreciate warmth and insulation. I'm not, I'm not being that guy who's like, oh, it's a bit spoiled. I'm not doing that. It's just it's so warm in here. It stresses me out when I get too warm. And breathe anyway. So, Marcus Rashford's situation, I think it is the obvious thing to say is it's best for all parties, isn't it? If we can somehow get a deal done, Marcus will be happy, the people around him will be happy, I'm sure his agent will be happy because he'll probably get some of that. Ruben Amorim will be happy, the club and the structure above will be very happy. If the flip side of that coin is, what if he stays? What if he's still here? What if he's... What do we do? You've got a player there now who, obviously he knows and has had a clear message, you're not a part of Ruben Amorim's plans. And the reason for that is the way you can conduct yourself at times, it's the people that you've got around you, and it's your attitude towards training. So we feel it's time to move you on. No hard feelings. We appreciate everything you've done for the club, but it's time. So obviously he feels unwanted now, and he's like, well, fuck it, I'm ready for a new challenge, which is why he done the interview with Henry Winter, wasn't it? Which I didn't think was great timing, but they had to put their piece out there first. So if we conclude a deal, it's fantastic, but I am leaning more towards the side of I don't think we sell him, because he will not go to Saudi Arabia, and I think they're the only club at the moment who could afford his wages. And I don't think, if he's got ambitions of going to the World Cup, sorry to repeat myself, but he's not going to do it playing in Saudi Arabia, is he? So he'll want to stay relevant. He'll want to stay in Europe. I don't think there are clubs in Europe that will take a punt on him for the wages that he's on. I think they'll take a punt on him for the player and trying to get him back to that level, because if they do, they've got a serious talent on their hands. But the money involved, I don't think they'll do it. I keep seeing links to Arsenal and stuff. I just can't see that. I don't know why they would sign him. They've got an inconsistent winger in Martinelli, and they want to sign one from United, who all of them have slagged off before. I mean, could you imagine if Marcus Rashford went to Arsenal You think the media's attention is bad at United, of course it is, and the pressure of him because he's from Manchester. I get that, but at Arsenal, they absolutely slaughter their players, slaughter him. I mean, one of the guys the other day was it Lee Gunner who was saying if he had a gun, he'd shoot Ødegaard or the manager or something. And this is supposed to be quite an influential figure in that kind of area. I can't see Rashford at Arsenal. Surely not. And also, can you imagine what an absolute disaster of a story it would be if he went there and did well? We'd never get. It'd be like the Robin van Persie Uno reverse card, wouldn't it? So I don't want him to go there. It'd be nice in an ideal world. You'd want him to go to like Napoli, for example, what Scott McTominay's doing. Go there and do well, and we get a bit of decent chunk of change for him. But Italy's not blessed with shitloads of money to buy players. I mean, they was bartering on McTominay for 20 million, weren't they? And they weren't going to go back in. And he's similar age profile. They're not going to go, here, United, here's 60, 70 million for Rashford. We'll cover his £350,000 a week wages. We'll take him off your hands, no worries. Especially when you got a player like Kvaratskhelia. Nah, not happening. So, I don't know where he goes to. And when someone can answer that, please do let me know. Answers on a postcard. I don't see it. Most importantly, the fans would be happy. Yeah. I think it's time. It's time to go. Simple as that. Now, when I say we are going to change gears here, we are going to switch from first to sixth, because this is a mad story that's dropped today, coming from Mike Keegan, who also dropped the story about, if you remember, the raw chicken, where the food hygiene completely dropped. Listen to this. Old Trafford has a mice infection. Droppings were discovered on a recent visit by hygiene inspectors, and United have been handed a 2-star rating, which is way short of the maximum 5. United officials are working with pest control partners and the local council and implementing a series of measures to tackle the problem. Mail Sport understands that inspectors found evidence of mice activity in ground-level corporate suites and a kiosk selling food to fans on a concourse. I thought my panini tasted a little bit mad. Anyway, at least they actually got filling on there now. Sorry. But it's not good, is it? It's not. It seems like when it rains, it pours at United. I mean, Ruben Amorim, for God's sake, was doing his press conference the other day, and it was literally just started leaking whilst all the journalists were there after a 3-0 defeat to Bournemouth. It always seems just after a bad result or a controversial thing has happened in the news, you see something like this, an article come out. They've got raw chicken. And you're like, what? Like, what the fuck's going on here? Oh, they've got rat droppings. Mice droppings, whatever you want to call it. You think it's obviously Old Trafford's right near a canal, so that doesn't. When you have those kind of waterfronts, it doesn't surprise me at all. I remember actually when I worked at Rochdale. I worked at the range in Rochdale. Right, I live in Manchester, so it's a bit of a mooch. But I used to get a tram there, and the tram, when I got off the tram in Rochdale and walked down like the side bits, every time, without fail, I would see a rat. Without fail. And it was like it was always like my morning shake up, you know what I mean? Like, wake the fuck up. I'd be walking down, it'd just scutter across my feet, and I'd be like, ugh. And I would have headphones on at the time as well, so I wouldn't even necessarily hear it. I'll just hear like lightning quick across my feet, and it would shit me up. I don't know what relevance that really has to the story, but it sparked a memory in me when I was going to work. But it's not good, is it? I mean, whenever you've got mice and rats, it's just, I don't know, sort it out. You're Manchester United, as Garrett, you're Manchester United. Why have you got mice and rats? Unbelievable. Yeah, sort it out. My condolences to the people who've been eating food in the kiosks and canteens and stuff, because you don't know what you've been eating there. But like I said, when it rains, it pours for United. So there we go. Manchester United. On to the next story, the very last story, should I say. Ugarte flowers. Now, this has, again, we've pivoted quite a lot here. Ugarte, I felt like, just for 5 minutes of the show, 5-10 minutes, I feel like he deserves his flowers, because there's a lot of negativity at the moment. There's a lot of people speaking about Marcus Rashford. A lot of people speaking about players who need to leave the club, who aren't good enough, who are consistently failing, who are making mistakes, so on, yada, yada, yada. Manuel Ugarte is someone who has come in And within the first few weeks, he was ridiculed by a section of the fan base who didn't like him. And he was said, who's this flop that we bought from PSG? You can see why PSG got rid of him now without actually doing any research or due diligence on why we was buying him and why Luis Enrique got rid of him and why he weren't playing for PSG. So there's context to it. Getting him in, and Wilcox pushed this signing, by the way. And also, Erik ten Hag didn't want him. So we have a case study here to look at to say, you know, sometimes when a manager really pushes for a player, I mean, there's a famous story in that Jurgen Klopp didn't want Mo Salah, and the board overruled him and ended up bringing him in, and arguably Mo Salah's top 5 Liverpool players ever. So your situation here where Ten Hag didn't want him, he was like, not entirely convinced on him. The board above so-called experts, if you want to call them that. Well, obviously Jason Wilcox is an expert in that kind of department. No, this is the kid. If obviously at the time we didn't know what's his face, Ruben Amorim was going to come in, or maybe they did, and it was just kind of doing it before it happened. But they looked at his profile, everything that he brought. He just puts fires out. He's exactly what we need. Now, granted, he always needs someone alongside him who's the creative one, because he can't really do that, you know, role on its own. And maybe we do go and get an Edison from Atalanta or someone like that. But him, now he needs to go buy a player next to him. I do like Kobe, and maybe he'll grow into that role, and that partnership can develop. But what I've seen so far, I think Kobe's going through a bit of a period at the minute where he's trying to find himself again. You think about the crash course that he had when he first came into the team. I mean, from going for playing under 19 to Copenhagen, to getting your first team debut, to scoring against Man City in an FA Cup final, to scoring against Liverpool at Old Trafford, to going to the Euros with England and becoming an important player in that midfield conundrum that we was discussing for so long. He had such a meteoric rise. It feels like the rocket's running out of fuel a little bit, and he just needs topping up, and we can send him back. Not send him back to another club, but getting back to the level that we've seen with Kobe. I feel like with Kobe Mainu, I said I was going to give Ugarte flowers and start to talk about Kobe. I will get back onto Ugarte in a minute. But I feel like with Kobe Mainu, I feel like he was best under Ten Hag when he was going forward. So when he was like the Wolves goal, for example, is the perfect reference point. You know, goes past 3 or 4 players, curls it in the bottom corner. Look at the area where he scored the goal against Liverpool as well. It's on that left side, just on the edge of the 18-yard box. I think that's where he does his best work. And I'm quite surprised that Amorim hasn't tried him as one of those 10s yet. I don't know how everyone feels he would do there. But that's something I'd certainly consider playing him. But yeah, he's just got to find his place. He's got to get used to it, experience and time. It'll come. But Ugarte is the one who needs to partner at the minute. And just to back this up, in the Premier League this season, Manuel Ugarte ranks in the top 10% of midfielders for the following per 90 metrics. Pass accuracy, 91%. Take on success, 60%. Tackles and interceptions, 5.82. Tackles, 4.29. Shots created via defensive actions, 0.28. So he's doing pretty well in it, you know? Yeah. Charlie's saying Mainu, sadly, have not been the same since he went to the Euros and then he had the injury. I hope he gets his confidence back. Me too, because there is no doubt in my mind that he is a phenomenal talent. He's a super, super top player. But again, players go through these periods. People were slagging Bellingham off a few months ago, saying, oh, he's dropped. I thought he was the star boy and da-da-da. And I'm not comparing Mainu to Bellingham, but I'm just saying it's another English midfielder who's young. And even players with a mentality like Jude has the down days or dips in form. So just allow it. Kobe will come back. He's learning. He's doing some good things in game. Some of the things like Bournemouth's third goal, I weren't a fan of. I think Chivy actually alluded to Paul Pogba, that type of move where you're trying to dink it over a player. Just keep it simple. And again, it's a learning period. He'll watch that game back. You learn more from mistakes and losses than you do from wins. Sir Alex Ferguson always said that. Always. So, yeah. The main take from this at the minute is a lot of work to be done, and that can be used across all the topics that we discussed today. A lot of work to be done in terms of if you want to sign someone like a Victor Osimhen, the finances involved, especially when you're touching tight on PSR, that deal will not get done unless a Marcus Rashford moves on. Now, trying to move Marcus Rashford on, as we've already discussed, it's near impossible, lads. Ladies and gentlemen, should I say. Near impossible to move him on. So I wouldn't expect any movement on that until we get to the summer, and then we can talk about it. There's a lot of work to be done to get rid of those mice droppings as well, and Manuel Ugarte gets a lot of work done, doesn't it? So we can use that concept throughout the full stories. Just a quick transfer show for you guys today. I appreciate people are doing things. They're busy. You know, it's Christmas, isn't it? Some people are spending time with family today. Some people are having, drinks and stuff with the mates. But doesn't mean the content stops regardless of whatever the numbers are. So I appreciate anyone who always tunes in and interacts with the channel. We are trying to push towards 10K by the time New Year drops. So that's 340 in 12 days, I think we're looking at. Or 10 days, is it? Who knows? Who knows? 30, 40 subs a day we need. And we could be on track. Which is interesting. But anyway, I'll leave you to it. Enjoy the rest of your day, please. And yeah, I'll chat to you tomorrow at the 12 o'clock show. See you in a bit.